You know, you can love somebody too much, right? Yeah, you can. Hey, welcome back to the Colorblind Architect podcast. And today I'm going to talk about love. You're probably thinking, this ugly mug talking about love? Yeah, so I'm talking about love not because I'm some kind of expert on it. And as you know, I am an architect, not a psychologist. I'm probably not the best person to talk about this, but the thought crossed my mind that you can actually love people too much. You can actually love people to their destruction. And that's what I want to talk about. What does that mean, loving to destruction? So, if you're somebody who has a family member or a loved one, that you feel like is kind of struggling, maybe they're behaving in a way that you don't think is the right way. This could actually be a situation where you could potentially love them to destruction. And what I mean by that is, for example, if somebody's, let's say somebody's an alcoholic, and an alcoholic, what they really need is for somebody to help them understand what they're doing is wrong in a way that actually helps them come back. It's difficult because you don't want to push too much, right? Because if you push too much, then they're going to reject it and they're just going to kind of harden in their stance. This is one of the things that we know, right? We know that people harden in their stance if you push too hard against them. So when you're trying to help somebody out, you need to be able to speak with boldness, but in a loving way that doesn't cause them to recoil and, solidify in their recalcitrance. Now, on the flip side, you can also become what's called an enabler, right? You can love somebody too much where you think you're being compassionate. Oh, well, I just really... They have a hard time, they just really need this drink, right? And, if you keep enabling them, if you keep saying, oh yeah, that's okay, it becomes harder and harder for that person to overcome whatever challenge it is that they're trying to overcome. Part of the reason why I bring this up is I think too often in this culture, in America, we are a very loving and tolerant people. We try really hard to love one another, and it may not seem it sometimes, because sometimes it seems like there's a lot of anger and hate, but it's ironic because it's actually caused by love. There's actually this tendency for people to misunderstand what true charitable love is. Like, for example, let's take a homeless person. If you've got a homeless person on the side of the freeway when you're coming down the exit, and I'm sure you've seen this in wherever you live, a lot of times they'll have the sign saying, some sob story, whatever it is, and they'll be asking for money. Now, there's a tendency for people to go ahead, give them a few coins, maybe $1, some people even give them like 20s, they think that they're being compassionate, right? But they're loving that person to destruction, because what they're doing is they're enabling the bad behavior. And by that I mean the bad behavior is somebody who thinks that that's perfectly acceptable to stand on the side of the road and ask for money instead of getting help. Now, you might be saying, but Dave, aren't you being a hate monger? I mean, aren't you being like horrible and mean? Well, think about it this way. There are actually programs out there. There's homeless shelters and mental health agencies that are trying to help these homeless people come back and join society and be positive members. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, should we be so judgmental that we're forcing people to behave that way? Okay, so let's back up again. So if somebody's homeless and chronically homeless and they're not accepting help from the shelters, a lot of times this is because they have mental health problems or drug addictions. And this is not going to be helped by you handing them a few coins on the side of the freeway. It makes you feel good. I mean, yeah, because you feel like, hey, I did my part. I helped somebody out. I donated some money. And then you drive on and you go live your life, you do your things, and you don't think anything more of that individual. Now, what would true compassion look like? True compassion would be if you had the time and the professional capability, the competency to be able to go and talk to that person, try to help them, try to figure out what it is, why are they there, and hopefully encourage them to go to a shelter, hopefully encourage them to go into detox and to rehab, hopefully encourage them to clean up their life. And if they do have mental health issues, hopefully go to a mental health professional who can help them overcome whatever it is that they're struggling with. That would be true compassion. It's a lot harder work than just handing the money out. But yet, we all do it, right? So many people, that's just what we do. We hand the money outside the window as we're driving by, makes us feel good. Same thing with the text messages, right? You see the charity thing, or the GoFundMe on Facebook or wherever it is, and you think, oh yeah, I can donate $5, and that makes me feel good. And you feel good because you feel like you're doing something. You're not necessarily doing anything good though. You might actually be harming, because if that act of giving money is enabling somebody, you are loving them to their destruction. So you have to think really carefully about these things. And I think as a society, so much of our tendency, our Judeo-Christian ethic that formed the foundation of what eventually led into what was our pop culture for so many decades of, we get kind of excited, right? Like these feel-good stories on the news, or these feel-good stories in movies and stuff, where you're helping the person out. It's like, that's great, but sometimes people get misled, and sometimes they start to think that just because you're helping doesn't necessarily mean, sometimes it doesn't actually mean that you're helping. And we all have this in our society. Now, I'm kind of rambling a little bit because I'm trying to get to my next point, is how that actually has caused a divide in our country, because we have two different views on charity, two different views on what is right. So if you take, for example, the transgender issue, that's an issue where the left is saying, no, we need to have compassion for these people and accept them for who they are and help them become who they really should be. And then on the right, they're saying, no, we need to have compassion with these people and help them by telling them the truth so that they can overcome the mental health problem that they have. So it's these two competing views. Both of them are based on charity. Both of them are based on love. And one of them has to be wrong, right? So it's an interesting problem that I think can occur. And so pop it down in the comments section. Seriously, if you've got any ideas, any thoughts, any examples of times where you've seen that you can love somebody to destruction, or society loving people to destruction by doing things that are self-destructive or non-constructive. Pop it down in the comments. I'd love to see some ideas. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a rumble, hit a like, subscribe if you want. If you don't want to, then, whatever. I don't care. I'm doing this because, like I said, I enjoy putting my ideas together and speaking them out loud. It helps them come into reality. And it's something that I think more people should do. More people should speak out and give their opinions. Anyways, hopefully you have a wonderful day. Have a great weekend. Peace out.